Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Today, let me show you how to do a hanging indent in Mac Pages. MacMost is brought to you thanks to more than 600 viewers just like you. Go to MacMost.com/Patreon. There you could read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So a lot of people search online to figure out how to do a hanging indent in Mac Pages. Once you know the trick, it's pretty easy. But there are some variations that can be more useful than just the standard hanging indent. So let's take a deep dive into several ways to do it. So first let's look at a very basic hanging indent. You need to put your cursor somewhere in the paragraph. It could be before the first character, it could be at the end, you could select the entire thing. As long as the cursor is somewhere blinking in the paragraph. Then you want to go to Format and then click on Layout. And here you'll see several different categories. Expand indents if it's not already expanded, and you'll see first, left, and right. If you increase the first number here, you could see it does a standard indent. It indents the very first line. And you could set that to whatever you want or to 0 to have it flush left. Likewise, the right side will make a right indent. You would think the left would actually do the same thing as the right and move all of the lines over to the right. But in fact it doesn't. It's exactly what we want. If we increase the left side, you could see it does all the lines except the first one. So this first number here, that takes care of the first line. Left takes care of all the other lines. So to do a simple hanging indent, all we need to do is increase the left number. Now you could set this to whatever you want. These arrows here are going to do it in 1/4 inch increments. But you can select the text here to 0.4 for instance to have 4/10 of an inch. Now you can also go to View and then Show Ruler or Command R. And you can see rulers here at the top and there are 3 blue indicators. You have these triangles pointing down and they represent the right and left numbers. And then you have this T-shaped indicator here that indicates the first. So if I move the first over to the right you can see that move. If I moved left over you could see that move. You can grab these and drag them wherever you want. Now when you move the left one it will also move the first one with it. But you can then move the first one independently to place that separate from the left. So there's your basic hanging indent. But if you're going to want to use this more than one time in your document you're going to want to create a style for it. So here I've got the cursor in this first paragraph and if I look at under Format, at the top it shows me I'm using the body style and it has an asterisk next to it showing it's a variation of the body style. All the other paragraphs show body with no asterisk and this one shows an asterisk. And that's because this one has the indenting there and these others don't. That's the difference between the two styles. Now I don't have this saved as a style anywhere. So I could save it to reuse in other paragraphs very easily by going over here and not clicking on Update. If I click on Update it will update all of the paragraphs using body style to use this specific style. Watch what happens. You can see I get hanging indents for all my paragraphs. I'm going to undo that. Instead of doing Update I'm going to click the little reveal button here and I'm going to hit plus and create a new style, body 1. I'll call it body with hanging indent. And now I have a second style here that I could use somewhere else. So if I go down to this paragraph say I could click here, do body with hanging indent and that one has a hanging indent but not the second paragraph. The advantage of doing it that way is I could go here and say you know that's a little bit too much of an indent. I'm going to change that to be 0.3. Now I've changed it and you can see it's body with hanging indent with an asterisk next to it. If I hit Update not only does it update that style but it updates the other paragraphs using that style. So if I've used this 100 times in my document I have an easy way to change the amount of the hanging indent throughout the document in one go. Now I know some of you are saying, but Gary, what I really want to do is have a hanging indent in my footnotes or endnotes because I need to have it match a certain style. And if I add a footnote, like for instance I'll add a footnote here, insert footnote, and now I've got that footnote there at the bottom. If I add some text like that to it you can see it doesn't have the hanging indent that you may want in a footnote. Well you can do the same thing here. You can see this is using the footnote style. If I were to go to Format, Text, and then Indent and then change the left indent You could say I could have this indented here on the left. And then if I hit update, it'll update the footnote style. So all my future footnotes will use the same thing. So I can insert another footnote here and instantly that footnote will follow that style because the footnote style now has a hanging indent. And as a bonus, if you put the cursor just before the first word in the footnote and insert a tab, then the first line will line up with the rest of the lines in the footnote as well. Now let's look at a little bit of a variation here. A lot of times what we want to do is we want to have the hanging indent because we want to have something before it. Like for instance a number. So I can do like number 1 like that and I want it to stick out. So I could do a hanging indent and have the one stick out, but it's not always going to line up evenly and it would be nice to actually have the first real word in this paragraph line up with the rest here. So what I want in that case is not a hanging indent at all. I want to use a bullet list, or in this case a numbered bullet list. So I'm going to go to Style here on the right. I'm going to go to Bullets and Lists and select Numbered. And you can see now not only does it put a number before the paragraph, but it lines up the rest of the text to the left side. So I could look here and I can see the indent. The first number for the indent is the complete left side here. And the second number where it says text is just the indentation for the text. So this could be really handy. I could use something besides a number. I could say for instance just a bullet and have a bullet there and I could still adjust this. So if your intention was to actually have numbers or a bullet there instead of a real hanging indent, then you really want to use bullets and lists. But here's a really advanced technique. I can go even further than this and have words here instead of using bullets. How would I do that? Well, let's go and select all 3 paragraphs here and set them all to a standard bullet list there like that. And let's say instead of a dot here I wanted there to be a word. So the first thing I'm going to need is more space. So I select these 3 paragraphs here and I will change it so that the text indents quite a bit. Like that much. Now I've got these bullets out here. Now I want to replace them with a word but not the same word for each one. So I'm going to put my cursor here in the first paragraph. I don't need to put it over here. Matter of fact I can't. I'm just going to select this first paragraph or any place inside of it. Then I'm going to go in Bullet and Lists. So I need to make sure I select Text Bullets here. And now I could set the text for the bullet. You can see it's set there to be that little bullet character. But I can change it to anything I want, like an X for instance. And you can see it changes it to an X. But I could also change it to a whole word. So I could change it to something like this. Then I can click on any part in the second paragraph and change it to that. And then I could select over here and change it to yet another thing. And now I've got different words here that stand by themselves and the rest of the text is all lined up. This is a handy technique, but note that if you select all these paragraphs and try to change anything like the word or the indenting, it's going to then make them all fit the same style. So if I move in the text indent, you can see it changes all to this rather than this, that, and other. So I need to change each paragraph on its own, which is a little bit of a pain. But it does create a nice effect that could be useful in many situations. Another way to do this same thing is to add a text box. Take that text box and set it up here to the left side. Shrink it. Put whatever text you want in it. Then make sure under Format Arrange that you set the text wrap to something like automatic or one of these other ones to fit in. And have it set to Move with Text. And also set spacing down probably to nothing for this since you can just use the box itself for spacing. You can also go to Text Layout and change the inset to 0. That makes it a lot easier to line up with things. If I were to move this say to the second paragraph here, I could shrink it to whatever I want. Make this as long as I want to make sure it pushes all the text in. And then I could, since it's set to Move with Text here, if I were to insert some text, you could see how it pushes the box down with the rest. Although sometimes you have to line it up a little bit after a movement. It will at least stay with the paragraph that it's kind of attached to. And there are even more ways to do it. You can get creative with columns. You could have a very short column on the left and a large column on the right. Use a column break to put some content on the left and the rest on the right. You could just use text boxes for everything. So a text box for the left side but also a text box for the main text on the right. Just figure out which of these methods works best for what you're doing. I publish new tutorials every weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. Then hit the little bell icon to get notifications for each new tutorial.